Pushkin.
DJ Premier is one of the most celebrated producers in hip-hop history. Known as the architect of hip-hop's venerated boom-bap sound, Preemo first caught people's attention with Guru and Gang Starr during the late 80s. Guru's lyrical precision over Premier's jazzy sample-based beats made Gang Starr one of the most influential rap duos of all time. Outside of Gang Starr, DJ Premier has produced classic records for a long list of hip-hop luminaries, including New York's Big Three: Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas. His expert ability to create a patchwork of musical and lyrical samples is both instantly identifiable and impossible to replicate. On today's episode, we'll hear a live conversation I recorded with Premier at the On Air Podcast Festival. Premier talked in detail about hanging out and working with his late friend, the Notorious B.I.G. He also reminisces about when he and Guru lived with Branford Marsalis in Brooklyn. He also recalls what it was like to work with D'Angelo on that fateful night at Electric Lady Studios when they recorded Devil's Pie. This is Broken Record, liner notes for the digital age. I'm Justin Richmond. Just a quick note here. You can listen to all of the music mentioned in this episode on our playlist, which you can find a link to in the show notes. For licensing reasons, each time a song is referenced in this episode, you'll hear this sound effect. All right, enjoy the episode. Here's my conversation with DJ Premier, live from Brooklyn.
When they asked me if I was going to do this, and I'm coming out from the West Coast, and I knew we were going to be doing this in Brooklyn, I felt like there's no way I could do a recording of Broken Record in Brooklyn without having a legend, someone who could really represent Brooklyn. And come on, y'all, we got DJ Premier.
Peace, everyone.
Absolute hip-hop legend. You were the greatest hip-hop producer of all time, but no matter who you ask, you're going to be top 2, 3, 4. So this is...
Yeah, they say top 3, so I'll take one of those numbers. 1, 2, or 3 is fine.
Maybe we can start with the fact that you lived at one point in Brooklyn with Branford Marsalis and his wife.
Yes.
You and Guru.
And his son, Reese. Shout to Reese.
In Clinton Hill.
Yeah.
And this is sort of at the beginning of Gang Starr. How did you meet Branford, first of all?
I had just joined Gang Starr officially in 1988. We did a single. Gang Starr, first of all, is originated in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm originally from Texas by way of Houston and through a town called Prairie View, which I went to Prairie View A&M University, which is an HBCU school. It's through the Texas A&M University system, which that's the Aggies. My father taught at the school, and my mother taught art. So I had a little bit of both. My father...
Your dad was a dean, right?
Yeah, he was a dean. He was my dean of arts and sciences because I took computer science. And I was always like not going to school, you know, typical wasting your parents' money. And my father's like, you're not going to be wasting my money going to college and not go to class, you know. So I even tried to sneak away for my 8 o'clock class 2 or 3 times. One day my dad acted like he was going because he taught an 8 o'clock class. I was drunk the night before, so I definitely didn't want to go from hanging out with my friends. And he acted like he was going, I acted like I was going. Then I went back to bed, and he doubled back. So all of a sudden, I heard the door go kaboom. I tried to jump up and get dressed, and he was like, I knew you wasn't going to class. And I was like, I want to go pursue music. He's like, and waste my money. You've been going to school. But I've always tell people, follow your gut. And if your gut tells you to make a move, do it. The one thing I do appreciate about my dad, God bless him, I know he's watching. God bless his soul. He said, if you're going to do this, show me you can make a name for yourself that people will remember and that you leave a legacy behind. I said, Pop, I'm telling you, I'm that focused. I will do it.
Wow. And
everything transitioned. So being that Gang Starr originated in Boston with a guy named, he was called Sugar Bear at the time, but he changed it to Big Suge, not to be confused with Suge Knight, who we also know very well. Him and Guru formed the group. There was other members, but they moved to New York to pursue the career. Suge went to prison for 3 years, so the other 2 members that were in the group before I met Guru didn't want to move to New York to carry on trying to get more famous.
Right.
So Guru said, I'm doing it on my own. I'm going to just look for a new DJ. because he had a DJ already. And actually, Suge's DJ was the first one. Then he left. Then there was another DJ. Then he left, and then I joined.
There's a wild amount of incarnations of Gang Starr. Like
I'm the third generation.
Yeah, right.
But then obviously when I joined, it became that the rest of the way.
And then in terms of like the discography, when you go through the albums, it's you and Guru from the start in terms of that. But before that, there are a couple different iterations of the group.
So we were on an independent label called Wild Pitch Records. Gang Starr was already signed there. Once I joined the group, we did a record called Words I Manifest, and it blew up right away, even as an independent. From there, we did it. The owner, Stu Fine, was like, we got to do an album real fast. So I was going back to college, came back to New York to do the album in like maybe 12 days. And it was called No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Well, and hold up. I mean, hold up. I don't want to interrupt the story, but like, were you, at this point, you were a DJ in Texas, Waxmaster C.
Yep.
At some point, you become DJ Premier.
Yeah,
but
Stu Fine didn't like my name, so that's why I changed it to Premier.
So that's how
he was like, Waxmaster C is not. I'm very good at imitating people, so if I go into different voices, I pretty much sound like the person I'm talking to. He's like, and my name is Christopher, but he'd call me Chris. But he would always, it sounded like he said Crass. I don't really like Waxmaster C. And I was like, I do. And plus everybody in college just call me Wax. So I'm like, I don't want to change it. He goes, just see if you can think of some other names. So I called my mom and said, hey, he wants me to change my name. She goes, why don't you make a list of different names and we'll pick one. Premier was one of them. I remember one was called Scratch and Cut. DJ Platter, which there is a DJ Platter now. The platter is what spins, what you put the record on, that spins. We call it, it's the platter, so DJs would get it. Everything I would do was so DJs would get it. I had DJ Quick Mix, which I'm glad I didn't take that one. Premier was one of them, and my mom looked at the list and said, Premier sounds like the one, because she said, take the E off. Because like a movie premiere, the E is on it, but she says take the E off and it'll be like you're the first at everything. We called Stu Fine from Texas and I said, hey, how about DJ Premier? He goes, I love it. And I was like, all right, incredible. I'm now DJ Premier.
Incredible. Shout out to your mom, man.
So when we did the album, No More Mr. Nice Guy.
But when did you start doing beats? Like when did you start producing records?
I was just starting to learn to perfect my craft on the first album. And we did a record called Jazz Music.
Right.
When Spike Lee saw the Words I Manifest video, he said that Guru looked like Malcolm X in the video when he's on the podium with the kufi and the glasses. And he does,
and they both from Boston too, so that's crazy.
And the cheekbones, he does resemble Malcolm X in the video. That made Spike buy the album, and when he heard Jazz Music, it just happened to be at the same time that he was shooting Mo Better Blues with Denzel Washington and Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes, yeah.
With that, Spike reached out, and he knew we were living in Brooklyn, at that time we weren't at Branford's yet. I had just moved to the Bronx with Guru, and we were about to move back to Brooklyn together. We had a studio apartment with our dancer, and Guru had a big king-size bed with no frame, just the mattresses. And in a studio apartment, that takes up all the space because the rest of the space was taken up by my records and my turntables and my speakers. So me and my dancer, we used to sleep in sleeping bags on the floor with the mice crawling over us, squeaking, and all that stuff, and Guru had the bed. From there, when we got the call about doing a theme song to Mo Better Blues, Spike said, the one on y'all's album is not in-depth enough about talking about jazz artists. I have a guy named Eric Eli who wrote a poem. He gave that to Guru and said, can you make a rap about this using this? So Guru looked at it like, oh man, I can just take this, John Coltrane, and Man Supreme, it was the wise one, and just put little things in it and made it into a rhyme. He said Branford Marsalis is going to oversee the song. So we got with him. Branford had just gotten the job at The Tonight Show because Johnny Carson was stepping down.
Right.
Jay Leno was just taking over, and he hired Branford to be the music director. So he said, hey, we're looking for a crib to move to Brooklyn. He said, well, I'm about to move out of my place in about another month or two and move to L.A. He said, if you want to live with me and my wife and my son for like a month or two, you could do that, and then we'll be gone, and you just pay the rent to my manager. And he said, and if you're ever late on the rent, we're kicking you out. which we got threatened several times. So, because we were always late on the rent, regular young guy stuff. And from there, we worked on the song. We put it together. We did 2 versions. The soundtrack has more of an in-depth version with the band. But when Spike decided to do a video, he said, I need the more simple version that you presented when y'all started to collaborate. So they used my original version for the video, which we were happy with just because it sounded more like what a Gang Starr record is supposed to sound like. And we shot the video to it, which is, you can find it anywhere. And that one's called Jazz Thing. So it's jazz
music.
Jazz music is the Gang Starr album. The Mo Better Blues soundtrack is Jazz Thing. And we all, the 5 of us lived together.
What was that like? Because I think of Branford, his incredible talent, his brother Winton, all his brothers, the father, all of them incredible. But I think of them as being a little more, on the conservative side of things. You know what I mean?
100%.
And you and Guru,
Yeah, I used to always be like, oh man, I don't like the fact that Winton don't like hip hop, and I was like, he's not official because he don't like hip hop because he was, he at that time he was like, it's noise, it's not music, and y'all are just using machines. But me and Winton are cool, but Branford was always branching out because he used to get flack when he joined Sting's band. For Dream of the Blue Turtles, everybody's like, man, you're a pure jazz purist. Now you're doing stuff with Sting. You're ruining your reputation. This is before social media. He was getting a lot of flack. And Branford is so cool because he talks like a jazz cat. He'd be like, hey, brother, you know what I'm saying? But fuck these motherfuckers. That's what I like. Like, he'll still curse and say stuff like that. Man, fuck that bitch ass motherfucker. I don't give a fuck. And then go to, So that's Brand. I call him Brand Lover. He's like, yo, give me a hip-hop nickname. I said, Brand Lover. I even made him a hat. I went to the Compton swap meet in L.A. and where all the gangbangers were and made him a real hat in blue with Brand Lover on it. And, I was like, yeah. So one of the funniest things was Guru and I had so many girlfriends and stuff at that time that were always coming by to see us.
Young man stuff.
And Branford said that we could give the home number because he had an answering machine. So we were always hangout guys. And so we might come back 2, 3 in the morning. And it just happened to be a night that Branford had an argument with his wife, so he was sleeping on the couch. But we didn't know that because the area where we're going to sleep at, the answering machine, you could just see the number lit up. If all the lights off, you'll see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And we're like, oh man, it's like 8 or 9 messages. We hit the thing, beep. Hey, Keith, we're looking, and all of a sudden, Branford goes, motherfucker, what the? And he turns on the light because it scared us. And he's on the couch. I'm like, man, we didn't know you were on the couch. He goes, man, I had an argument with my wife, and now y'all are ruining my sleep, checking the goddamn answer machine. You can't wait till tomorrow. I was like, well, you said we could use your home number. So he's like, you know what, just forget it. I'm going back upstairs and I'll go in the bedroom with her. And we'd go, okay, beep. Okay, yeah, like checking the rest of the messages to see how many people called us, So that's how much the old answering machine, how many people remember the answering machine era? So you know where I'm coming from. Even if he wasn't on the couch, everybody checks it when they get home
exactly.
at night. See who they call. We didn't. It was either a pager or check that. It wasn't cell phones yet, unless you had a car phone.
Right. And in the process, it sounds like you saved his marriage, maybe too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they're actually divorced now. So,
well,
so maybe I ruined it. Shout to his ex-wife Tess. She's a sweetheart. Her brother Mike, who lived underneath us in the basement, and we all had a great relationship with each other. And his son Reese, who I always talk to this very day, he moved from North Carolina back to New York, so he's in New York. So
it's incredible, man.
Yeah, Branford came by to visit me recently, and we had just a good time hanging and reminiscing. He's one of the greatest human beings ever. He knows sports, music. His philosophies on life is just really good to get to grab on whenever I need some advice. I still call him for that.
He seems like an incredible person to be like. I mean, the fortune of moving from Texas to New York to do music and then getting to meet, I guess, first of all, Spike, seeing the video, you get on the soundtrack, but just getting access to a guy like Branford Marsalis that early in your career, that's just an incredible.
He's official, man. Shout to Brand Lover.
That house, once he moves out, it seems like that kind of became the center of your world and kind of like the hip hop world in general. Like the way, who was in the neighborhood?
Chub Rock, the Lady of Rage, who eventually moved to LA to get with Dr. Dre and became one of the first females on Death Row Records, and that's how we met, heard of Snoop Dogg for the first time. He was Snoop Doggy Dogg then. And Nikki D, the first female of Def Jam Records. And then Jam Master Jay, God bless him, and I'm glad his family's getting closure because they just found the killers guilty, so justice has been served. He used to date April Walker, who had Walker Wear, which was very popular clothing line back then. Everybody knows Mike Tyson used to walk on in the ring with the towel with the WW on the front. That's her line, and she's actually back out now, still repping Brooklyn. I used to date her sister at the time, so we were all friends, and I see Jam Master Jay all the time. And then a couple years later, Guru comes to the house and says, yo, there's this guy named Biggie Smalls down the block. You got to come hear him rhyme. And I'm like, yeah, and Mr. C, who was Big Daddy Kane's DJ, has been pressing me because he wasn't Notorious B.I.G. yet. And we went down to the corner because at that time we used to drink 40 ounces of malt liquor. Old English was the preference, and we go down there and we met the Notorious B.I.G. and he would rhyme in front of us, and he was like, what can I do to get a deal? And he said, Puffy wants to sign me. And I'm like, if he wants to sign you, just have all your business straight, have a good lawyer, and if everything works out, you could be the next star. And he became one of the biggest in the world. They already knew who we were because we were established. We're on our third album. Right. And he would just rap. Every Friday we would go hang out with Big, and we met Lil' Kim and the whole Junior Mafia, and that became the norm to see him outside every weekend and just drink and smoke weed and just have a good time with Big.
That's incredible. Did he already have the charisma? Did you know he was going to be?
He was funny naturally, not trying to be a jokester. He was just that naturally. Him and Big L, I always say that. Big L, God bless him. He was another one that was just naturally funny. They weren't sitting there trying to be the funny guy on the block. They just were naturally with that type of humor.
Yeah. Didn't you go with Big to pick up Guru from prison one time? Or from jail?
Yeah, what happened was people doing a fraud on your credit card was a new thing. Somebody did a fraud on Guru's credit card, and when they ran it, he was double parked. Cops told him to move your car. Matter of fact, let me see your ID. He checked his ID, and it said that there was a fraud on his name, but that the cops are thinking he's the one that's fraudulent and using a fake card. They took him to jail at the precinct, which was, we call it LG, but it's called Lafayette Gardens. And they call us and tell us that he got locked up. Biggie calls me and tells me he got locked up and somebody's got to get him. I said, okay, I'm coming down the block, which like I said, we're only like 5 blocks away. Go there, the whole Junior Mafia, Biggie, everybody's on the corner. I said, I'm going to go to the precinct. Can one of y'all move his car? And then once we get him out and figure out what's going on, we'll come get the car. And Biggie said, okay. I said, Biggie, why don't you drive it and move it? Okay. Biggie gets in the driver's seat and just sits there looking like kind of like staring. I'm like, you're not going to move the car because the police is still like, move the car. And Biggie goes, I don't know how to drive. We're like, why you sit in the driver's seat? He said, because this is a Jaguar and it looks nice and I want to see how it feels to sit in one. He said, because I might buy one. He said, but I have to be driven around. And I'm like, Big, like, get out of the car. So one of the other guys with his crew hopped in, moved it, and parked it on the corner. And we went and got him out. They ran everything, found out he was legit. And we got him out and we drove back, brought him back to his car, and we went home. Still living at Branford's house.
That's amazing.
After this quick break, we'll come back with more from DJ Premier. We're back with more of my conversation with DJ Premier.
Another person in the neighborhood is someone that I love, one of my favorite producers, Easy Mo B.
Oh, yeah. He used to come over to the house all the time when he was in Rapping This Fundamental. Yeah, shout to him, AB, the whole crew. Yeah, one of the illest beat makers. I mean, to me, he's the DJ Premier of Biggie's first album because he did the 90% of it.
I mean, you did Unbelievable, which is...
That was like after the album was done, like completely done.
Okay, so let's get to that then, but Easy Mo B did like 5, like The What with Method Man.
One of my favorites.
Warning.
Machine Gun Funk.
Which is one of the best. It's an incredible track.
He had so many records on there, him, Lord Finesse. Mine was, after the album was turned in, they needed a street record for the first single, which was Juicy. So I did Unbelievable, but being that it popped off, they added it to the album, even though it was already done, mastered, and sequenced. So
the album was sequenced and mastered, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Because we had copies
just not
early.
pressed probably, but everything else was
well, we
done.
had back then. Leaking your album was cool if your friends had it. It wasn't like now if something leaks and it ruins the first week sales and it's all now everybody has it and it hasn't even launched yet. This is just Biggie would make copies for his whole crew so that they could have it memorized so that if he has shows, everybody is singing the record. And back then we all did that. You know, I'd make cassettes for my whole team. Yo, here's the album in advance. We didn't look at it as wrong. Where now it's like you don't want to leak out even an interlude, you know?
Right.
Because somebody will put it on social media and now your record's leaked.
Right. So it was basically done. Why does he hit you up to?
He said, I need a street record. Because Juicy was more radio oriented. You know, everybody knew the M2 record. Just in any black household, everybody's gonna have the Entume album,
right?
And everybody's gonna have Juicy Fruit. That's standard in any black household. I can't speak for outside of that. I'm just going by how I was raised. But in a black household, you're gonna have...
We in gentrified Brooklyn, so let them know. You know what I mean?
So now the Rolling Stones are blending in with Entume. But even that, like even in the black household, you have the Rolling Stones. You may not have Led Zeppelin, but the Stones kind of crossed a certain line where they had
not as hard, a little more.
Same thing with hip hop. That's how a lot of rock records like Run DMC didn't call it Aerosmith. They say, "Yo, get the Toys in the Attic album,"
right?
And cut that.
That was
up.
The break. The Toys in the Attic, right?
That was the name of the album. The song was called "Walk This Way," but from a hip hop perspective, like, "Yo, put that Toys in the Attic joint on."
Right.
You know that's just how they do it. Like even Assembly Line by the Commodores, with the part where it breaks down and goes hut, hut. Every DJ calls, "Yo, put hut on." But it's called Assembly Line.
Yeah, that's from the first Commodore's record.
So you can't find it if you look for Hut. But if you sing it to back in Music Factory days, you could go in the store and go, "What's that record that goes Hut?" Oh, Commodore's right there on row 1 down 2. That's how it was.
Let's go back to Biggie and Unbelievable.
Okay.
When Biggie hits you and says, "I need a street record," what are your thoughts?
Everybody that knows my formula is I like to make the beat. It's like cooking you dinner. Come by and I'll cook you something. That's what it is. Show up.
It's got to be personal.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's got to be tailored. One thing I love about Guru, God bless him, from Gang Starr, was he always said in interviews, DJ Premier is a beat tailor. He will tailor it to you. Like Gamble and Huff, I saw them do an interview. You know, anybody know who Gamble and Huff is? Yeah, one of the best producing crew in the world. They're like Holland Dozier Holland from Motown, but they did all the Philadelphia International stuff. They did the OJs, they did the Jones Girls, they did Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, they did Teddy Pendergrass, and the Jacksons. When they left Motown and they went to Epic, they produced I think the first 2 albums. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did Enjoy Yourself and Good Times. So during that time, I watched their interview and they said, we always make the track right there that we think you would have a hit record on and we present it to you. We don't just, like now it's all the producers these days is like, oh, here's 30 beats, pick which one you like and we make a song.
Right.
I'm literally looking at you. If I had to make a record for you, I'm going to be like, okay, I'll listen to what you've done and then I'll know where I fit in and I'll make it for you.
And do you do it at your studio? D&D would have been where
at
you...
At that time, that was the studio. A lot of people were scared to go there because it was a heroin street. So it was heroin and fiends walking around like zombies and everything. And it was crack on the block. It's funny because I just did an interview with Sway and Heather B last week. And Heather used to always come there. And there's a deli that we go to, but we call it Crack Deli. So we go, hey, man, go get me a sandwich from Crack Deli. And she goes, yeah, Crack Deli. She was like, I remember Crack Deli, because all the crack dealers are on the corner selling crack. And you're just going to, and they're like, yo, Premier, what's up, man? Love your music, man. Yo, you want anything? I'm like, no. And then they're selling crack around the corner, so we call it Crack Deli. So those are the days, And y'all know rappers, rappers are always tough Puff and Macho, a lot of them that we worked with were like, I'm not coming back here. It's too scary.
Wow.
Yeah. So shout to Crack Deli. Shout to all the fiends. And shout to D&D. Dave and Doug, that's D&D.
That's D&D? I didn't know
Doug.
that.
Dave
and Doug
Lotwin
studio.
and Doug Grandma. Yep.
So is that where you made Unbelievable? Did you get Biggie down to D&D?
Big came with his crew. He's not worried about anything.
Right. It's from Fulton.
And it got to a point when Jay-Z started working on Reasonable Doubt. He was an everyday guy. We're there every day.
Really?
He's in one room, I'm in my room, and the beat miners who produced Black Moon, Smith & Wesson, Helter Skelter, rest in peace to Sean Price, they would be in the other room. So it was just a rotation. Jay-Z would go in one room, work, come to my room and work, and he would always be there.
And he'd be in there with the other producers, like Ski or whoever else.
Yeah,
was producing on that record?
during that time, Ski, Sean and LV, a guy named Nobody. Irv Gotti was there, but he was DJ Irv back then. He wasn't Irv Gotti with Murder Inc. with Ja Rule and all that yet. Wow. So these are early days.
Well, Big's an interesting story because Big kind of told you what to make, right? In terms of for Unbelievable.
Well, Unbelievable, he didn't. He just told me what to scratch. He was just like, man, make anything. I'm like, dude, because I told him, I turned him down.
Right.
I was like, dude, I'm too busy. I'll get you on the next album. He's like, I just need a quick joint for the streets, please. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't even know where to squeeze it in. He goes, man, I don't even care if you use Impeach the President. And if you know hip hop, Impeach the President by the Honey Drippers, it's one of the biggest break records of all time in hip hop culture. So to use that, you have to manipulate it and be creative. So I said, all right, come meet me there and I'm gonna chop it up and just come up with some things. And I found this note that had a vibration at the end of the note. It was one note. I just gave it to Questlove. I don't give my sessions out. I took all the sounds off the disc because they wanted to remake it, but with the original sounds that I sampled.
Wait, was that sound from Impeach the President? Just the drum break,
the drum
right?
break, yeah.
So can you tell it? I was going to ask, what's that sound from?
But it's chopped into a different drum pattern.
Right. Where do you hear that note? What is that note? What's the dun dun dun?
Sampling is an art form, especially in the hip hop culture, because we have brought back a lot of records that probably wouldn't even be popular now. I mean, there's records that I've sampled where you'll go to a store and it was only like $3. And now that I used it, or Dr. Dre used it, or Diamond D, or Large Professor, or Pete Rock, or Easy Mo B, you name it, even Public Enemy with the Bomb Squad, now you'll look, that record's $200.
Yep.
Because they know, Premier used that, and a lot of people want to
getting re-released. It's getting put. It's getting picked
people
up.
want to own that record. So now it's $200-$300, and I'm like, well, shit, do I get a cut of that?
So you ain't gonna tell us where that stab came from, are you?
No. Hey, honestly, I can't remember for that one because it's just one note. But when you play it, it goes boom. So it doesn't just go boom. It goes boom.
Right.
And if you hear it on there, it's going boom, boom, boom. So the fact that it has that little curl on it, I just took that one note and just pitched it on different drum pads on the machine. So now it's going boom, 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 and then just made it dance on the lyrical side. Boom, 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 boom. And he came in like, that's it.
Wow.
That's it. And then we chilled for damn near 8 hours because that's when Bacardi Limon had just come out, And so he has mad bottles. And not only that, a lot of rappers started mentioning that in their rhymes, you know. So he started drinking that. 8 hours passed. It's getting really late. And I'm like, yo, Big, if we ain't going to record anything tonight, let's come back tomorrow. He goes, oh, I'm ready. I'm like, we've been sitting here for 8 hours smoking and playing pool and rolling dice and drinking Bacardi Limon. He's like, okay, but I'm ready. Let's do it. And he goes in the booth, and I'm like, you did you write it down? He goes, no, it's up in here.
Wow.
And that's my first time witnessing him record with no paper.
That's
I was
insane.
like, wow. And then Jay-Z did the same thing. No paper.
And Jay-Z did a similar thing too. He, The Evils from Reasonable Doubt, Jay's first record.
Yeah. Called me, did the rhyme over the phone, explained what scratch sequence he wanted. I'm good either way. Most of the time, obviously, I come up with it, but I have no problem if an MC like Jay-Z or Biggie knows what they want, and then I'll see if it works. Scratch it in. If it fits, I'm like, cool. I'm still going to have my style of input, but Jay-Z told me exactly what he wanted. The other two songs, I just made the beat on the spot, and then he was like, "Oh, I got something for that." Like friend or foe, and then with "Bring It On," he said, "I'm bringing two of my." Well, Jazzo was already down with Jay-Z, but Sauce Money we had never heard of, and he brought him in, and we did "Bring It On."
That's incredible. You do two other Biggie records on Life After Death.
Yeah.
One of them being "Kicking the Door." Mm-hmm. What made you settle on the "I Put a Spell on You" sample?
"I Put a Spell on You" was a very well-known record in Texas because, like I said, I come from a town where we didn't call it R&B back then. It was called soul music. If you go to the record store, there was rock, jazz. It didn't say pop, and it didn't say R&B. It said soul. So me and my mother, who was a very big record collector, aside from being an art teacher, and she taught me art in junior high and high school, and everybody knows my mom, so, and everybody in my neighborhood has a painting that she did in their house. Even the funeral home where our funerals were held, there's pictures in the viewing room that my mom did in the bathrooms. I was like, damn, I can't escape her anywhere. So
that's beautiful, though.
Oh,
man.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Talk
Absolutely.
about leaving a legacy.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Basically, it was just a record you heard around Texas.
Oh, it's a record that was popular where we're from. Screaming Jay Hawkins I Put a Spell on You is a popular record. We all knew the lyrics to it. I never planned on making it into a hip hop record for Big, but when it came to him, I only charged him $5,000 for Unbelievable, and I said, if you go platinum and you get paid, I'm charging you triple the next time. He said, done deal. He ended up paying 6 times the amount. Yeah.
For Kicking the Door.
For each record, yeah, for Kicking the Door and 10 Crack Commandments. So
Insane.
he kept his word. I said, you're going to pay what I told you. He goes, oh, no, I got you. Or like Biggie would say, no doubt.
Puff didn't like that record, though, right? Kicking the Door?
No, he didn't. He didn't. I dropped off the beat. That's when we used to put it on those little 10-minute cassettes.
Right.
I drop it off. And later on that evening, they call us and say, hey, you're ready to die. Platinum albums plaques came in. So I was like, ooh. So I'm going to pick that up, not thinking about the new track. Puff sees me in the lobby, and he's like, yo, man, can you work on a new beat to give to Big? Because I don't like the one that you gave him. And I'm like, okay, no problem. If you don't like it, I'm not offended. But he said, yeah, I need something a little more like that's going to rock in the tunnel. I said, that's going to rock in the tunnel. I said, mark my words. I said, why don't you let Big hear it? He said, oh, I'm going to give it to him and let him hear it, but still work on something else because they already hired me for 2 records. Even though Crack Commandments wasn't a thought yet, I was like, okay, I'll work on another one. Big calls me maybe a couple hours later, and he's like, yo, you could come down and we could work on that beat. And I'm like, well, I'm working on a new one now. He goes, no, the one you gave Puff earlier. And I was like, oh, well, he don't like that one. He goes, man, fuck that. I'm going to kill this record. and that's Big. He said, I got some shit for this. I said, all right. And you know what's so dope is after we did the record, Puff was like, you know what? Once I hear the lyrics to it, I love it. It's a go. And he's the boss, so if he says no, it's not coming out, but he ended up liking it.
One other big thing I heard is that you were with Big and Jay like about a month before Big went to L.A. For his last trip to L.A. And he was conflicted about going? Is that
Yeah, he at that time they were working on Brooklyn's Finest, and there was just talk about him going to LA, and he just said he didn't want to go at that time. I don't know what transpired later, because I always tell this story. If you saw the Notorious movie, at the end of the movie where he's in the studio and he's smiling and they're playing Sky's the Limit, that session was really my session, because the 10 Crack Commandments was the last song we did. And the part where he's smiling, he goes, yo, it's over, I'm the greatest. That was really my session. But, earlier in the movie, they played 10 Crack Commandments when his son played him, and they were selling the crack on the street, and they played 10 Crack Commandments there. I guess it was more fitting for that part of the movie. But narrative. That scene when he said, Preem, it's over, I'm the greatest. And I told Cheo Coker about that. And even though I know he had a lot of input with the shaping of the movie, along with Big's family, that scene is really should have been him listening to Crack Commandments. And when he said it's over, I'm the greatest, he was still in the vocal booth, in a wheelchair.
Right, because he had
the car accident. He broke his hip when him and CZ crashed to a car. So, and I remember he said, "Hey, my first video is called Hypnotize Preem, and I'm doing physical therapy. I'm gonna dance." And he did. He did the little If you look at the Hypnotize video, he's dancing in it, and he looks so happy too.
How did it feel for you knowing you were with him a month before, and he's feeling like maybe I don't want to go to LA?
Very weird.
You get the news he's
very
murdered.
Weird, because to get the news, my former manager, shout to Fat Gary, his girl at the time was best friends with Nino's girlfriend. Everybody knows Junior Mafia knows Nino is one of the guys close to Big. So we got the news early because obviously since he's a family member of Big, they're already making calls, 6 a.m. saying that he's been killed. So, and I was like, how did you know? He said, Nino's girl is best friends with my girl, and they just called us in the middle of the early morning and just told us that he just got killed in L.A. So we knew before it was even, we turned on the radio, turned on TV, nothing. It's probably like almost an hour to 2 hours later, they started making the announcement, so we already knew.
That's wild, man. And that whole thing with Pac and Big too must have been interesting for you. You're interesting because you're always like you're kind of always in the middle of everything. Like Jeru the Damager, who you did a lot of work with, incredible MC. Mm-hmm. He's beefing with Bad Boy Records.
Well, he wasn't beefing. It was more,
they were mad at him.
Yeah, well, what it
record
was,
you made with them.
Yeah, what it was, it's real simple. At the time when we were at the Source Awards, we were very hot at the time. Jeru was very hot. We thought we was gonna get Producer of the Year, and Jeru was so big at that time with Come Clean and his Sunrise in the East album, and the Source Awards this is the first televised one.
95 one?
Yeah, there was a pre-taped one the year before that aired, but this one is live. So when we were there, with all the stuff going back and forth, we were a little more hot-headed back then. We're not now, we're grown. But, you got to remember, we're in our 20s, going into our 30s. We're very, very gung-ho about sticking to the script of not ever bowing down to watering down the music. So when all the back and forth was going on with Suge and Puff, we went to the studio and I was working on Jeru's second album, Wrath of the Math, and I put this track on. It was called One Day. He talked about what happened all in one day, almost like a fictional story, but he wasn't afraid to mention anybody's names because that's just how.
And he mentioned Suge and Puff.
Yeah.
Both in the record.
And others, Foxy Brown, a guy named Jay Black, so when he mentioned all of that, we were still on some, let's put this out as a leak before we drop the first single. Right. Yes, it pierced a lot of people in the Bad Boy crew, and they took it the wrong way. But one thing I gotta say is when it got to that point, Puff called Jeru. He called the label, told him we gotta have a talk about this. And they got into a big back and forth about, don't say my name on a record. Jeru's like, I'll say whatever I want. And they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And one thing I gotta say about Puff was he said, you know what? I gotta respect Jeru for not being afraid to say my name, no matter how he felt. Where he said, I know a lot of people probably say stuff about me in their raps, but they just do it subliminally. He said Jeru was man enough to say it and tell me that he's standing on it. Like what they say now, stand on business. We've been standing on business. And he gave him his respect. And then it just finally fizzled out.
But I love that you never get in the middle of it either. Like you make the beat, your name's mentioned in it.
I told all of them. I told Big, because even Big was like, man, he's got to be talking about me too, because he said hip hop had on a Versace suit. I'm like, you're not the first one wearing Versace. Mad people were wearing Versace before you, and we would have said your name too, if we wanted to say your name. Everybody mentioned were the specific people that were brought up, and that was it. But it did finally fizzle out years later, and like I said, the respect was given because I was in the session to hear all the talk. Jeru was like, "Let me go with you."
And you were on the response, right? He Big responds on Kicking the Door.
On Kicking the Door.
He said, you make that beat. So
he said, I got something for you.
You're friends with Big, you're friends with Pac, you're friends with Lady of Rage who's on death row. You're kind of always in this
we're all,
neutral.
all of us,
Yeah, man.
And I'm not doing it to be a troublemaker, but still, back in that time when we were much younger, we were very rebellious and hard-headed, you know, a little ignorant. But as you grow, you look back and you go, wow, we went through some shit. But at the same time, everybody got respect for each other.
Yeah.
It's just so sad that Pac and Big had to leave us so soon, and Big L, because we all were in the same clubs together. We were all hanging together. We were all cool. You know, I knew Pac and Big, seen them together for years, being good friends with each other, you know, so it's sad that they're both gone. And then it was never an East Coast, West Coast beef. You got fans that fuel it like that, but the fans are not in the mix of the situation that was going down. It had nothing to do with the music.
Right.
Yeah, so.
It's incredible, too, because I think you said something, and I never heard this, that Big wanted to get Dr. Dre to do records with them on Life After Death, which would have been amazing.
It was the day after the Source Awards. Yeah, he asked Suge, you know, how can we connect to do a record? So that shows you right there, Biggs is not thinking about all the talk that happened at the Source Awards. He's like, let's get some work done, or some music in.
After one last break, we'll be back with the rest of my conversation with DJ Premier. Here's the rest of my conversation with DJ Premier.
Hold up. I want to play... Let's play the song, and I want to play what you sample. It's impossible to not... it's hard to turn that off, but, you know.
Shout out to D'Angelo, man. One of the greatest.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let's play where that comes from first. That's what it comes from, right?
Maybe.
It sounds like it.
Sounds like it.
Am I wrong?
You could be.
I want to play this game with you, man. Okay, well, let's assume it's that.
Okay, allegedly.
Allegedly, it's Teddy Pendergrass's first record, produced by Gamble and Huff.
Yes, sir.
And it's a shuffle in 3. Dun, 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 dun. It's like a shuffle. It's a waltz.
Right.
If this is the song Allegedly, you turn it into like a call and response. Dun, 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 dun. Starts over. Dun, 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 dun. Ridiculous.
Right. Hey, that's the part of the creativity of sampling. If you're deep rooted into respecting the art form of how it's done, you know, when you have people like, you know, Larry Smith and Marley Marl, who was
Larry
my
Smith,
idol. Marley just revolutionized sampling first and brought it to the forefront with records like The Bridge and Eric B. as President and Cool G rapping DJ Polo, Road to the Riches, and records like that, Big Daddy Kane. We just took it to another level after Marley taught us how to do it. So part of my creativity comes from being a DJ, because I think DJs have more of an understanding of how to manipulate sounds and make it into a whole new thing. Because when we DJ, or especially if you're a battle DJ, you're taking records and destroying your opponent in a battle by taking the parts and reworking it in a way where the whole crowd's going, oh, you know, and it's only more understood by people that in the culture that are into DJing and whatnot. But that's always my approach before I program it, is how can I make this turn into something else? And you gotta hurt your neck. So
yeah. Not only is it crazy the way you manipulated the sample, allegedly, but the other incredible thing is it's in a record that's a classic record, one of the great records of all time, that's pretty much only produced by D'Angelo and Raphael Sadiq. You come in, second track, fits seamlessly in there. Yeah,
we were label mates, me and D'Angelo, so we knew each other before he did the Brown Sugar album. And I was on tour at the time with Nas, M.O.P., and J. Rule's debut album, and he asked me to do a remix to Lady, which I did a version where I used to call it just the drums or just the bass. This one I took the music out and just had the drums and played these stabs. Stabs is just a note. Bam, 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 bam. We got those stabs. So it was just stabs. And I remember I was on tour and he was like, yo, I'm shooting a video to your version with the stabs, which he did. And he had everybody in there. Erykah Badu.
The video was all white in the back.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember Erykah Badu was pregnant with Andre 3000's son, and he just
Joy was in it.
Joy was in it, and just so many people. AZ was our label mate as well, who got famous through Nas' Illmatic album, and he did the verse, and it was just a dope video. And then from there, he's like, I'm working on my new album, Voodoo. What you got? And I said, man, I'm actually leaving the studio now. I was working with Cannabis. It was a track that we worked on that didn't turn into what we were going to work on.
That you were working on that with Cannabis?
Yeah. Because he was doing a record called Niggonometry, and he called me and said, I want a heavy...
No one else is allowed to say that.
Yeah. Stop it. N-word nometry. And he said, I want a real driving bass line. So I started just looking and did that.
Did he rhyme on it?
No, he never rhymed. I wish he would have.
That would have been ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Shout to Biss, man. He's, if you know him, we call him Biss. He didn't do the record. I'm literally leaving this. Me and Biss are leaving the studio. I said, we'll work on something later. And D and I were already friends, so when he said, yo, man, I'm at Electric Lady, which is his sacred place, which is, if y'all know, that's Jimi Hendrix's studio, still to this day. I said, I got this record I was doing with Biss, but it's more some hip-hop rhyming shit. He goes, I want to hear it. And I was like, nah, it's not really, it's not that type of vibe. I'll work on something and meet you tomorrow. But I'll come by. He said, I want to play you stuff anyway. He said, Jay Dilla's here, Questlove is here, we're working on some stuff. I go there, Jay Dilla, we miss you, brother. Questlove is there, doing the drums to Untitled, is the one he was where he was naked in the video. They was there working on that, and Jay Dilla was in there playing the drums and laying some stuff down. And then he says, "Let me hear the one that you were working on." I play it, and D'Angelo just goes, "Whoa, yo! I want that." Like, he goes, "I'm gonna kill this," and we laid it down. And that there's a picture of me, Alchemist, who was just starting to work on beats.
Producer.
We were about to go on tour together. Alchemist was a roadie for Cypress Hill, but we so we were about to go on tour. So that's why we were together. And I asked D, "Can I bring my friend with me?" And he goes, "You got something to smoke?" I said, "Oh yeah, he's from California. He got the crazy." And we came over there, and Jay Dilla, that picture is to this day a classic picture. Me, D'Angelo, Jay Dilla, and Alchemist. And that's from that session of me bringing the beat, Dilla recording some music for D'Angelo, and Questlove laying the "How Does It Feel" drums.
You know what the third amazing thing about that is then? Is that there couldn't be two songs with a different feel on that record than Untitled, "How Does It Feel?"
Yeah.
And Devil's Pie.
And you know what else? He said, "Yo, I'm gonna be naked in my first video."
He knew it then?
Yeah, cause his trainer is not in the picture, but his trainer had just, and it's late night. It's late night, and his trainer came there to get his abs tight, cause he said, he said, "Preem, I'm gonna be glistening, and he said the women are gonna go crazy," and they did. You name it, the women went crazy for that video, you know.
Are you still in touch with D?
Yeah, I just hit him up. I'll tell you what day it was.
Okay, let's pull the checks out.
It's to where I'll hit him up and go, "Yo, we need you, motherfucker." Like, he's like, I know. You know, and it's to tell him, like, you know, you're such an important piece to this music puzzle, man, and we need you, bro. So I just hit him on that. I do it every now and then just to let him know.
I love that you won't tell me where that sample comes from, but you'll show me.
That was February 15th.
D'Angelo text.
It was February 15th, and there's a reason why I hit him.
Wow.
Because on Instagram, there was a post of D'Angelo, Rick James, Prince, and like two other artists that were doing classic songs. And D'Angelo was doing a song that's Rare by Funkadelic, and it's one of my favorite songs from the Hardcore Jollies album called Soulmates. It's not one of their big records. And when I saw D, look what I wrote. I said, "Man, I never knew you shot a clip of singing Soulmates. That's my fucking song. I loop that guitar lick at the end and do a routine at my shows. Man, you are the funk." And he gave me the little
Yeah, he gave me a little heart, man, and an exclamation.
And check this out. Everybody that they posted on there, he was the only one they just put a funkadelic song. All the rest of them they posted had the song that they sang, and I put the dummies that posted it, called it a funkadelic song. They don't be knowing. I said that Hardcore Jollies LP is phenomenal, and he put another one. To see him playing that on the guitar, and I never knew he played that in that clip, lets me know he's another level of funky. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a whole nother level of funky. I love him so much, man, because he's deep. You gotta kind of know him to understand him.
Have you worked with him since then? Like, have you done?
I just gave him some music to work on, and D definitely marches to the beat of his own drum. When he feels like moving, then he'll move. You can't tell him when.
His feel on the guitar, too, is crazy.
Yeah, and you know, he's a keyboardist, but he plays that guitar, too.
Like, it's just a unique feel, like, just his sense of timing, you know what I mean? Like, the way when you hear Stevie Wonder play drums and his sense of timing on the drum set's a little like, whoa, it sounds like Stevie. Like, he has just his own...
his own pocket.
His own pocket.
So seeing that just got me amped. Like, I wanted him to know that badly, like, dude.
Yeah.
And that's why I sent it to him, because he's like, yo, where'd you find that? And I was like, somebody posted you, Prince, Rick James, and like 2 other artists I can't even remember doing a cover of a song where they all, everything was acoustic versions with them on just guitars. So that was his choice, and he was first, and it just said a funkadelic song. It's like, you don't know the name of that?
This reminds me too, Prince was a fan of Gang Starr, right?
Yeah, man, because of D'Angelo, he took me to a show that he was doing, I think at Tramps, and that used to be one of the venues where a lot of New York shows were done. And he knew we would just talk Prince all the time because him and Prince used to hang a lot. And he said, Prince is going to make a surprise performance. He said, I got to go do a little bit of press. Go in that room over there, and I'll be back in a few minutes. I was like, okay. And I to open the door, and there's a pool table, and Prince sitting there looking at me. And, you know, Prince gives you those looks, and you're just like, yo. Yeah, you could be the thug, you could be the most gangster dude. When you see Prince, you gonna bow down and give him his flowers. Basically, D knew he was in there. He tricked me and said, yo, you just go in that room and just wait for me for a few minutes while I go do a couple of interviews. And Tretch from Naughty by Nature was there.
Oh, man.
I remember
one of the greats.
I remember when Prince said, hey, man, I love Step in the Arena, which was our second album. Tretch punched me in the chest and goes, see, nigga, Prince love you. And, you know, and I'm like, I see that. And we had a cool conversation, and it's just like, Prince, man, like my second album.
Did you guys like exchange info? Like
nah, man, we weren't even at that stage where you could change the number. That was more than enough for me. We had a conversation.
Yeah, and he knew that he names the album. It's not even like,
Yeah, Step in the Arena, he said, one of my favorite albums. And he's not into sampling, really. Right. But he understood the artistry of how we constructed our music, so he appreciated it in a different way than just looping a hit, you know, which a lot of people do. They loop hits, and then from there, it's a hit again.
Right.
You know,
I could keep you forever, but I feel like we could end on this note, which is that, speaking of, Prince wasn't a fan of samples. There's a lot of people at the time in the early days, late 80s, early 90s, not a fan of sampling. But I think, maybe I want to know if we can get confirmation. Easy Mo B, who we were talking about earlier, in 92, I love that someone here loves Easy Mo B, whoever that is. God bless you. God bless you.
Mo B, man.
Yeah, he's the best. But in 92...
Look, he produced Tupac and Biggie.
And like we said, some of the best Biggie records and some of the best Pac records on Me Against the World. But he produced the Miles Davis record in 92.
Doo-Bop Sound, yeah.
Miles Davis's last record. So I want to play the title cut off of Doo-Bop real quick, and then I got a question for you based on that.
Okay.
So that's Miles Davis at a time when people like Wynton, et cetera, are like, you know, we don't sample. Here's Miles. He's like, I'm going to go work with Easy Mo B.
Miles said, I'm doing everything, and I don't care how you feel about it.
And so that's a Kool and the Gang loop in the back. Kool and the Gang Summer Madness.
Allegedly.
But I think really what he's looping it from DJ Premier and Deep Concentration.
Let's hear it.
From No Mr. Nice Guy. You on a Miles Davis record, dog? I'm pretty sure. What the?
Yeah.
It's the fucking craziest thing ever.
Yeah.
Because the reason I think that is from that is because there's like that I think you added that piano over the loop, the da-na-na-na-na, over the, because that's not in the Kool and the Gang song.
Right.
But that's in the Miles version.
Yeah.
So
and
convoluted,
and
but
we
it's a
were
sample
all
of the same.
friends. Like I said, me and Easy Mo be friends to this very day. And he's just one of the greatest slept on, underrated producers. He should be always spoken on when it comes to the top 5.
He's my top 5. No question.
Love Mo B, man.
No question. Well, amazing. We got DJ Premier. Everybody give it up.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to DJ Premier.
Thank you for having me.
Big up Brooklyn. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate y'all. Allegedly. Peace and love, everybody.
Thanks to DJ Premier for making it out to On Air Fest in Brooklyn. It was incredible getting the chance to speak with them, and I hope we get to do a part 2 sometime soon. You can hear a playlist of all of our favorite DJ Premier and Gang Starr songs at brokenrecordpodcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Broken Record. Broken Record is produced and edited by Leah Rose with marketing help from Eric Sandler and Jordan McMillan. Our engineer is Ben Tolliday. Broken Record is a production of Pushkin Industries. And if you like this show, please remember to share, rate, and review us on your podcast app. Our theme music's by Kenny Beats. I'm Justin Richmond.